Okay, so let's get started. Today I'm going to talk to you about how to protect yourself from risky scams. So, as I mentioned, if you have any questions during today's presentation, feel free to just ask as we go along. And if you're watching the recording, I'm going to have my contact information at the end so you can reach out to our office and we can be of assistance to you.
Mhm.
A quick introduction, my name is Lauren Kirschmeyer. I'm the Marketing and Outreach Coordinator from Better Business Bureau of Upstate New York. Our office is located in Amherst, New York, which is a suburb of Buffalo, but our office works with all of the businesses, consumers, charities, as many Chamber of Commerce organizations as we can throughout all of upstate New York, which is 48 counties. There's another office that we work with that's located in New York City, and they work with all of the Metro New York businesses and charities as well. So we do a lot with that Metro New York office, but everything that we work with in our office is located in blue on the map, and the New York office, the Metro New York office, is what you see in gray. What we've noticed is that scammers are using the pandemic to create urgency and put new twists on old scams. So we're seeing a lot of scams that we've been familiar with, we've all been talking about and seeing, but they're adding a new twist to it to try and get people to fall for it. And how do I know this? We have a source on our website that is free for you to utilize. It's called Scam Tracker. You can access this website by going to bbb.org/scam tracker, and I have that at the top of the slide. And on this website, it's going to pop up just like you see here on the screen. There's a giant map. It's interactive, which means that you can zoom in and out. You can click on those numbers that you see. Anything that's a warmer color, so red, for example, means that it's happening more in that area. It's a very popular scam, or there's a lot of scams happening there. The cooler the color, like blue, means it's not happening as much in that area. This is a searchable website, which I'll get into in just a minute. And in a survey that we recently did, it said 21.8% of people said this scam tracker source helped them avoid losing money to a scam. So if you're hoping to spot any scams and not lose your money, not lose your personal information, this can be a great tool to help you do so. If you do spot a scam, we encourage you to report it. As you can see on the screen, there's a giant red box when you go on this website that says report a scam. All you have to do is click on that box. And in just a few slides, I'm going to go through what it looks like to report a scam and show you just how easy it is. By sharing a scam, whether you lose money or not, or you fall for it or not, if you spot one, we encourage you to report it to us just to warn other people that it's out there. And if we see a lot of these reports coming in about a particular scam, especially if it's in a very specific area or targeted to a very specific group of individuals, then we can issue an advisory about that and hopefully prevent people from falling for that scam. On that on the left side of that screen, so if you look, this was the whole map, and on the left side it says search for scams. I'm just going to zoom in on that a little bit for you. And you can search for those scams instead of going in on the map itself. You can search for a specific keyword. You can do it by scam type, and different scam types will pop up for you to choose from. You can also search by country. So BBB is international. We have offices all throughout the United States, some in Canada as well as Mexico. So for us, you'd obviously want to look at United States right now because this is a New York organization that I'm speaking with. And then date reported. So you can do it for the entire time tracker has been around, or you can do it for a very specific time period. So you can search for just the past 3 months, for example, or even the past 2 weeks. So I did a utility scam search example. So I did utility scam in that keyword bar. And these are some of the examples that popped up. And I did just a specific location as well. So you can see I zoomed in on Buffalo when I was looking up these reports. When you do a search like that, this is similar to what will pop up on your screen. It will show you the area that you searched for, where the scams were reported, and it'll tell you which zip codes they happened in, how much money was lost. So you can see this report right here. They lost over $1,000 to utility scam. And these are scams that we're seeing pop up a little bit more now that the pandemic, people paused a lot of their payments during the pandemic because maybe they didn't have as much or as much finances coming in, and now those companies are asking you to start making your payments again. So we're seeing a lot of scammers take advantage of that and seeing, oh, these people haven't been paying their student loans. I'm going to start making phone calls and seeing if I can get money from them. So we are seeing different scams like that pop up. And if you click view on the right side under details, it'll tell you more information about that specific scam that was reported. So I click on view, and this is similar to what you'll see pop up on your screen depending on what you're searching. It'll tell you what the type of scam was, if they had a business name that they used, how much money they lost, and it tells you everything that that person shared in their report about how they were reached out to, what happened in that situation, if they had a phone conversation, maybe what they received in the mail, as many details as they can. And at the bottom of that detailed report, it says learn more about utility scams, or it'll be whatever that keyword is that you searched in that original search. If you click on learn more, it's going to provide you with even more information to help prevent yourself from falling for that scam. So in this, it's sharing you that scam alert that we put out about these utility scams, and then I'll tell you more about the scam, the tactics the scammers are using, and red flags to look out for. So there's a lot of great valuable information that we have for you to help prevent yourself from falling for these scams. You can also go to bbb.org and scroll down just a little bit and you'll see an area that says latest news. If you click on that, you can also see all of our articles that have been shared to bbb.org. And even on this, you can search by a keyword for a specific article type that you want to learn more about. So for this instance, in my example on the screen, I searched identity theft, and all of our articles that talk about identity theft will pop up for you so that you can learn more. If you did want to report a scam, I told you I was going to walk you through how to do that. Like I said, you click on that red button right there on that home page. And we first ask you as much as you can share with us about the scammer. Did they use a specific business name? Did they give you an address for that business? Did they give you a phone number that they asked you to call back? Were you on a website of theirs? And did they use an email? So if you have any of that information, the more you can share with us, the merrier. Then we ask you a little bit more about the scam itself. How did they contact you? Was it through a text message, a phone call? Did they send you something in the mail? Was it on social media? There's so many different ways these individuals can contact you. So we just ask you how you first initiated this scam or how they initiated the scam. We ask you again for that scam type, and then we ask you to share some information. So this is where those details come into play. Again, share as much information as you can. Just know that if there's any personal information in there, like a social security number, an account number, your own personal address, we're going to take that out because that's going to make you vulnerable for falling for more scams, right? And we don't want that to happen. So just
Yeah.
know that we do look through these and we'll retract any of that information that could potentially put someone in danger. Then if you have any images you would like to attach, you can do that. That could be a screenshot of a text message that you received, a screenshot of an email. If you received something in the mail and you took a picture of it, these are all things that you can include in that image, attach an image example. Then we ask you if you lost any personally identifiable information, such as your security or your social security number, your credit card number, your bank account information. So if anyone took that from you, you would click yes. If not, click no. And then we ask if you lost any money. Again, you don't have to lose anything to report these scams, but if you do, please mark yes. And then we ask about you, the individual who was scammed. I'll go into why in just a little bit, but we ask if you're willing to share it with us, your age, your gender, if you happen to be part of the military, a military spouse or a veteran, and if you're a student. And then at the very end, we just ask for your own information. That part there is required. You can see by the marks that are next to first name, last name, and email. And the only reason we require that, we're not sharing that with anyone. Like I said, we don't want to set you up for a scam. It's just for our own personal records. So if we need to call you and ask you about a scam that you reported, then we can get in touch with you and ask you more about it, just to learn more information. Then you just check off if you're willing to share if what you've shared with us with the media, because like I said, sometimes we get a large number of scams reported and then we share that with the media and they sometimes want to do a story about it. And a lot of those times they ask for an actual scam victim to go on camera and speak to them. So if you'd be comfortable sharing your story, you would check that box. If you're not comfortable sharing your story, then don't check that box. We then have a box that says that you're saying everything that you just shared with us is accurate. You're telling the truth. There's no false information in there from what you're aware of. And then at the end, we just verify that you're not a robot. And then you would click submit. And that's as simple as it is. It's not that much information. And again, it's just as much as you're willing to share with us besides what is mandatory, okay? If you need any help with that, feel free to call our office. I'll have the number on the screen at the very end, but feel free to call us and we'd be willing to help you with that as well. With that information that we receive on Scam Tracker, every single month I do a report of the scam reports that we receive. So I share the information on our social media accounts, and then that also is being shared with our local media. So like I said, sometimes they want to do stories based on the scams that are being that are prevalent in our upstate New York area. This way I can warn people that these are the top 3 scams that are happening in upstate New York. This is how much money was lost last month, and you don't want to lose that money. These are the people that they were targeting. So I issue that monthly update. So if you are on social media, you'll see those. I usually share them on a Friday, one Friday a month, and you can look back and see those posts if you go to our page. I'll be working on the we're in May. I'll be working on the May stats in about a week or so I can share that with you as well. So this is what the April report looked like, just so you can see. It said 36% of all scams reported in April were online purchase scams. And then I tell you the other ones that were reported, how much was lost. Most of the people last month actually received something by mail. That was the most popular way of being reached out to. And then these are the ages that were targeted. Some of them were business related. There were a couple that were targeted because they're in the military. 55% of people from April were female. I thought that was an interesting statistic that most of the reports that came in were females who were being targeted. And then again, we encourage you, if you do spot a scam, to report it to Scam Tracker. So this is what our reports look like now. We also take those scam reports that are shared with us to create some publications for consumers to continue learning more. One of the trends that we saw during the pandemic were these online purchase scams. These were so abundant that they issued a report just on online purchase scams. That's kind of hard to say. And you can read more about that at bbb.org/online purchase scams. But I'm going to share some of the stats with you. Online purchase scams are not new. These were among the top 3 riskiest scams in 2017, 2018, and 2019, but they were that #1 scam, I think every single month during 2020. If it wasn't the first 3 months, it was the entire pandemic, which I thought was very interesting and worthy of sharing. For the people who said that they were scammed by an online purchase scam, low price was the top reason. So just because something seems like it's cheaper and you want to save some money doesn't mean it's always going to be a legitimate product that you are purchasing. So always do your research before you make a purchase. See if it is a legitimate company that you're purchasing through so that you're not scammed. Then you're losing money, you're losing your personal information, and you don't actually receive the products that you thought you were purchasing. We also noticed that scammers are choosing popular products to perpetrate their scams. So at the beginning of COVID, these were masks. We didn't anticipate needing to have so many masks available at stores when the pandemic first hit. So they were being sold out and people went online to try and purchase these masks to protect themselves when they went out in public. And a lot of scammers took note of that, claimed that they were selling masks online. People were sending their credit card information thinking that they were making a purchase, never received the masks, and lost a lot of money. So pay attention, especially even during the holidays. What are people looking for online? And keep that in the back of your mind. And again, do your research, make sure that the person that you're making these purchases through, that it is a legitimate business so you don't get scammed just because something's popular.
How do we know it's a legitimate business?
You can go to bbb.org and look up that business, see if there's any reports on them. A lot of these false companies, they have an advisory at the top of their page saying this is a fake business. This is the information we have on them. These are the complaints we've received. If for some reason they don't have a profile on our website, a few other ideas that you can do. One, look up their contact information so you can see if they have an address, like a physical address listed on their website, and then Google that address, see what pops up. Sometimes what we've noticed in the past is that there's an address there and we search it and we'll say that the business claims that they're a clothing retailer. You search the address and it ends up being a car garage that's going to fix cars. Those are two completely different businesses. So just by searching that address, you can see, oh, that's a huge piece of false information that they're sharing on their website. I can't trust them. Another thing you can do is look at their spelling and grammar on their website. Are things repeated a lot? Is there a lot of spelling and grammar errors? That's another big clue as to if someone's legitimate or not, and they're just trying to post what's popular. Another thing you can do too, this will be my final tip for you for that, and that was a great question too, because that's a hard thing to figure out, is, oh my gosh, what was my third tip? Oh, see how long that they've been in business, if that's available to you. So for the face mask example, at the beginning of the pandemic, we saw a lot of sites popping up saying, oh, we're selling these masks. But if you looked at the website itself, they were only up for a couple weeks. It wasn't a business that has that reputation of they've been known for selling these masks. They have these masks. They're actually going to send them to you. They popped up when all of a sudden people were looking for masks. So finding that too, especially on social media, seeing how recent that social media account was created will be helpful.
I have a question.
Okay.
This is Terry D'Angelo Gercha, Grenda's wife.
Hi.
I had a call this morning about somebody who said my social security number was compromised. And I've never had that one before. So in that case, what do you do when they're calling your phone or their cell phone? And I knew it was a scam, so I actually hung up.
Oh, good.
You know, like, and I was in the middle of my work day. I was like, I don't have time for this. So what would you suggest when people are calling and saying, oh, your social security number is compromised?
Do not give your information. For a call like that, definitely hang up so you did the right thing. If you are ever hesitant, like, oh, what if it was really them calling, look up the actual Social Security Administration's customer service number and call that line and see if anyone called you. If they did, then have that conversation because you know that you called Social Security. But usually Social Security, IRS, Medicare, they're not calling you. They would be sending you something more formal than just saying, hey, I need your number. A lot of the times that's just people trying to call you and get that information and then use it to their advantage. And then unfortunately, you end up falling victim to a number of scams. So you did the right thing by hanging up. But yeah, that would be my best suggestion that we offer is if someone does call you like that, hang up, look up their true phone number for that organization, for their customer service line, and call that and verify.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
By the way, I got a call about 3 days ago.
Okay.
It was the same thing. And then he asked me, what is my name? And I gave Robert something like that. this guy, he says, no, this phone belongs to Gurinder Garcha. I say, yes, but my name is Robert. I also call myself Robert. And he immediately knew that I am doing something else. He abused me in my own language and clothes. And I knew that he's from India, you know.
Do these people ever get caught?
There are individuals who get caught when they can find them and figure out who it is, but a lot of them unfortunately use their intelligence for bad, and they know how to get around and change their names. And so there is a lot of research that has to go into it to try and catch these individuals, but a lot of times they're just really intelligent and they know how to hide themselves. So it can take a long time to track down these scammers. For those calls, the best thing you can do, as silly as it sounds, is don't pick up your phone if you don't know the number. And a lot of these individuals are now what we call spoofing phone numbers. So they're using numbers that look familiar to you, that you're more interested in picking up because you think it's someone that,
Your
or
area.
like, someone that you think is supposed to be calling you, and you pick up and it ends up not being who you thought it was. So our piece of advice that we usually give in those situations is just don't pick up your phone unless you know it is in fact someone that you've been waiting for to call you. A lot of people are like, well, what if it's an emergency? Or what if it was someone and I was supposed to talk to them? They'll leave you a voicemail if it really is important. If it's not important, that scammer is going to be like, oh, they didn't pick up their phone, I'm moving on to the next victim. If you do pick up the phone and you interact with the scammer, they're going to know that your phone number is active, which unfortunately I've done a couple of times on my work phone thinking it was another BBB calling me or another business calling me, asking me for help. I pick up, it ends up being a scam call. They now know that my phone number is active and they're going to try and call me with a different type of scheme in the future. So if you just let it go to voicemail, if they keep getting your voicemail, they're eventually going to give up on trying to call you because they know that you're not going to pick up the phone and then fall for their scam.
I get a lot of text messages. I've been getting at least 2 to 3 a day. Every time I go and block that number.
Yeah, you can block the number. That is an option, but like I said, sometimes these are people who are spoofing other phone numbers. So if you block a number, it could be one that they were just pretending to use. And if someone were to try to call you from that number legitimately in the future and it's not a scammer, then that number is blocked from you. So keep that in the back of your mind. It's fine to block it because odds are it's not going to be someone that you're going to need to interact with in the future. But a lot of times they are now, like I said, using their intelligence to trick people, and they're spoofing those phone numbers. So it's usually they're calling from a different number, but it shows up as the one that you see. So that's
Laura, also done in the past is if you take that phone number and put it in Google, it will tell you that it's a scam number. You put your own phone number in Google, it'll tell you who it belongs to. But if you take ID that whatever number shows up and put in Google, it'll tell you all the numbers that they're using. I've done that in the past just to see, well, who are these people?
Yeah, I actually received one of those yesterday claiming to be from M&T Bank, and I happen to not have an account with M&T Bank, and it was saying that there was a compromise in my banking account. They wanted me to click on a link, and this is something I plan on talking about later, but it's totally fine. And they just want you to click on the link, and then it's going to download either malicious software onto your device. So in this case, it would be my phone, or it's going to download a virus to my phone, and they're just trying to trick you based on that urgency. So they're trying to say there's something wrong with your account. But in the back of my mind, I'm like, well, I don't have an account with that bank. So that was my first clue. And then I searched the phone number at the top out of curiosity, the one that it came from, and it came up that it's a common scam phone number. So that's a great suggestion too, is searching that phone number that pops up.
And I got an email just now, and it's written your account has been compromised, and it is PayPal. And it said, please log in on the PayPal. Okay, it looks like the email has come from PayPal. Okay? PayPal. Yeah.
I received those too.
Yeah, I received that. I just delete them,
Yeah, there are quite a few, and that's something I plan on talking about in a little bit too, but we can talk about that now, is they plan these scammers are trying to impersonate other organizations, and PayPal unfortunately is a popular one because a lot of people use it. So they impersonate it, they try and copy their logo and some of their language that they use. But in a lot of those scam emails, you can see again that the grammar or the spelling is maybe a little bit off. I've received them from Amazon in the past, a scam Amazon one, and instead of it being like $24 and then the period and then like 94 cents, there was a comma where the period should be. So if you take that close look, you're like, oh wait, that seems wrong. That doesn't seem, there's something wrong about that number. So little things like that. What you could do too, if you get something like that from Amazon or supposedly PayPal, you could look at you can log in through your actual account. So don't go through the link that's in that email, go to a separate window, go to PayPal itself, log into your account and see if anything pops up. If not, you're good. And most of the time you are good. Same with Amazon. For me, it was saying that there was something wrong with my order. But if I logged on to Amazon itself, I would have seen that everything was in order and that email was fraudulent email. So yeah, doing that little extra background research will help you.
Yeah, Amazon always gives the order number.
Mm-hmm.
If there is an issue with an order, it always comes with the order number.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep. All right, so back to those online purchase scams. We noticed active duty military members lost 24% more money to online purchase scams than non-military members during this research period. So that was really interesting too. So know if you are part of the military, you might be being targeted a little bit more to those scams. I've mentioned this a few times already, but really do your research. Out of the 57% of people who did not research a website or a business before making their purchase, 81% of those individuals lost money. So that's a huge number of people who lost money just because they didn't take that extra minute or so to look up the business before giving them their information. With all those reports that we received too, we create a report after that whole year happens. So this takes a little bit of time to dive into. It usually comes out in March of the following year. So we just recently, a couple months ago, released our 2020 report. We looked at all the reports that were shared for our whole system, and then we put that report together and share that information with you on webinars such as this one. To look at the report, if you want more information, I'm going to go through some of it with you momentarily, but you can look it up at bbb.org/risk report, and it will show you all the details and even more from what I'm going to show you in the next few slides. So this report is not necessarily the top scam because, as I've already mentioned before, online purchase was huge during the pandemic. So 2020, there were a lot of online purchase scams. What we do instead is we look at what you're most at risk for. So we look at your exposure. So how likely are you to be targeted by a particular scam? We look at your susceptibility. So what are your odds of losing money when you're exposed? And then we look at that median number of the monetary loss. So when we look at all three of those combined, that tells us what you are most at risk for. And this is why we ask you what your gender is, where you are from, if you are part of the military, if you're a student, because of this report. So we can really focus in a little bit more on you specifically, and then we can help you prevent yourself from falling for those scams. So 2020 alone, we had over 46,000 scams reported. The median dollar amount lost for these reports was $115. So it's not a terrible number, but still, if you lose $115 multiple times a year, that really adds up. And then 46.7% of scam reports included financial loss. So again, a lot of people were losing money. A lot of people lost it again to online purchase scams. I've talked about that a few times, but that's because a lot more people spent more time online because of the pandemic, and then they purchased more online because of the pandemic. If you think about it, people were scared to go to stores, and a lot of stores were closed, so you couldn't go get the things that you would normally go shopping for. So then you turned to online services and online purchases, and unfortunately, people didn't think to look up the people that they were purchasing from. So that was a huge reason why online purchase scams spiked up. Susceptibility was at an all-time high in 2020 with nearly 1 in 2 reports noting a financial loss. For the first time since we've been issuing these reports, adults ages 18 to 24 reported the highest median loss at $150 on average, which was the same as seniors. Normally, seniors had the highest in terms of monetary loss, but now that younger generation is catching up and they're losing equal amounts of money to these scams. The online scams were most popular through social media apps and through websites. Instead of them being phone scams. Usually in the past, we saw phone scams being that top way of people falling for these scams, but now it's turning more to those websites and social media apps. Scams using online payment systems spiked, which means that people were losing money because of PayPal or because of putting their credit card through a website instead of going to prepaid cards or wired transfers. As I mentioned before, Amazon was the second most impersonated brand by scammers. So scammers were seeing a lot of people were making purchases through Amazon. So how can we take advantage of that and trick people into falling for our scam? Let's impersonate Amazon. They're going to think it's legitimate. So we saw that really hop up in the impersonated organizations. And then people were saying that learning about general scammer behaviors and tactics was an effective prevention tactic from falling for a scam. So being on a webinar such as this one or watching the recording, becoming educated about these scams will help you from falling for them in the future. Other than losing money and personal information, the people that we studied also said that they lost time, they lost their confidence and peace of mind, and they also, and they lost some personal information. So I mixed up my words a little bit before, but it's not just money that people are losing in these scams. Real quick, jumping back to online purchase scams, these were the top 10 riskiest scams that people fell for. The top one was online, or I'm sorry, these were the top scams overall. So online purchase was number 1, employment was number 2, especially with so many people losing their jobs over the pandemic. Fake check and money order was number 3. Advanced fee loans were number 4. Home improvement number 5. Number 6 was romance. Number 7 was cryptocurrency. Number 8 was tech support. Number 9, travel, vacation, and timeshare scams. And number 10 is investment. So these are the top 10 in 2020. For online purchase in particular, just to touch on this one more time, if you are shopping online, these were the riskiest things that people ended up falling for and losing their money. Pets and pet supplies was number 1. A lot of people, myself included, wanted to adopt pets during the pandemic. But if they didn't look up the person that they were adopting through, a lot of people lost a large amount of money, sometimes even over $1,000 because they thought they were adopting an animal. If they just did a quick search, they would have seen that that organization didn't really exist, or the pictures that they were receiving were actually stock photos or photos that were posted by another organization that that scammer stole. So if they just took that extra little step, they would have seen that the animal that they thought they were adopting didn't really exist. The other types of online purchase scams that were risky, and I just want to warn you about, just so you take that extra step into your research: medical and nutrition, motor vehicles and parts, clothing and accessories, digital devices, footwear, fitness and sporting goods, hobbies, toys and collectibles, furniture, and home appliances. I mentioned this briefly before, but you can see it a little bit better here. Those who are younger are more susceptible to fall for scams. It's that middle age group that is more exposed to scams. However, as you can see, the people who are losing the most money are the 18 to 24-year-old age group, as well as 65 and over. So I thought that was an interesting graph to look at. These are the riskiest scams by your age. So like I mentioned before, we really look at that data of when you share your age with us, and we break it down to see what you're most at risk for. So I'll leave this up for a second so you can look at your age group and what maybe you fall for or what you are being targeted for. So I'll leave this up for about 5 more seconds. Now, this is why we ask you about your gender when you report your scam. This is to see if there's any sort of trends happening with scams targeted towards women and towards men. So at the bottom, it has the riskiest scams based on your gender. But the top tells you that women are losing less money to scams. Men have 168 on average for when they lose money to a scam, where women lose about 105 on average when they fall for a scam. However, women are more exposed and more susceptible for falling for a scam than men, which means even though women are losing maybe a little bit less money for their scams, they're more at risk for falling for one. So maybe they're falling for more, which in the end adds up to more money being lost. Some things that will help you decrease your risk for falling for a scam is simply asking questions and trusting your gut. And things that will increase your risk for falling for a scam are if you're feeling any sort of financial distress, if maybe you're feeling lonely, that's where those romance scams and those pet scams come into play. You're looking for a companion, and then you end up connecting with the scammer who plays on your emotions and then unfortunately takes some money and personal information from you in the long run. The third one is if you panic during a stressful situation. Anytime you feel stressed, make sure you take a deep breath, especially if money or personal information is being involved. As I mentioned before, websites and social media really hopped up in terms of how people are losing their money, followed by emails that they receive and phone calls. But websites and social media amounts for over 50% of how people are losing money to scams. Of those who did lose money to a scam, 35.6% lost it through a credit card, followed by online payment. So again, pay attention to where and who you're giving your credit card information to and what sources you are putting your information on. A lot of people thought that maybe they were using PayPal, like mentioned before, but they would have seen that the link that they clicked wasn't really for PayPal. They were giving their money to a scammer. So make sure you have your security in check, that you're using trusted sources when you're giving your personal information out. As I mentioned before too, we look into if anyone's part of the military versus not in the military and how that plays an impact. As you see on the screen, military members lost more money to scams than non-military members by at least $28. They're also more susceptible for falling for scams. So if you are part of the military, please take extra caution because you're going to be more targeted than non-military members.
Why are military people targeted? Like what's making them stand out? Like, is there something on their websites or?
Sometimes I don't know the actual specific reason why. If I had to guess or make an assumption, it would be if they're saying that there's a special military discount or veteran discount, or it's something that's only offered to people that are in the military.
See,
One thing that came to mind too is if a military member, if they have to purchase stuff online because maybe they are stationed somewhere else other than their home, so they're doing more online purchases, or if they are moving, then maybe they're falling for like moving related scams because they're trying to go from one base to another, or whatever their situation may be. So it could even just be that they happen to be in the military and fell for a scam that wasn't targeted towards a military member. But we just do ask for that information just to see if there's any of those trends. And active duty lost on average $269 to a scam, which was a lot higher than that 105. So I thought that was very interesting. I wish I knew specifically why they lost more, but I think it's just because of how they're targeting and maybe trying to pry on that you are part of the military, so we offer a military discount, and that isn't actually the case. Active duty military also is more susceptible for falling for scams, but veterans are more exposed to scams. That could be because veterans are in mostly, or I shouldn't say mostly, but a lot of them might be in that senior age category where seniors are losing more money for scams. So I'd be interested in myself digging more into this, but I just thought that was interesting. If you are part of the military currently, that you might lose more money and you're more susceptible. So again, do that extra little bit of research to make sure that if there is a claim, such as there's a military discount, if you were to purchase something through that organization, take that step back and make sure that claim is legitimate. And same with veterans, make sure that since you are more exposed, that you take that extra step and look up who it is that you're working with. And these are the specific ones that non-military veterans and military spouses are being targeted for. So like I said, veterans online purchase, it could be that there was something that was stated for veterans only, or there's a veterans discount if you purchase this product on our website. So, and then employment for military spouses, if they were the ones who they were moving with their spouse to a base and they were looking for a job, they might have fallen for a scam that was targeted towards a military spouse member. So I would love to learn a little bit more, but I found that interesting that it changes a little bit based on your military affiliation. As I mentioned before, PayPal and Amazon are in that the impersonated top 10 list. But the number one is the Social Security Administration, which you said you got a call from that recently. When you get a call from Social Security, it's scary. You think that something's compromised with your personal information, that maybe your identity was stolen, but really them calling you is their way of trying to steal your information. The Social Security Administration is not going to be calling you. If you do, like I said earlier, have that gut feeling that you're not sure and you want to find out for sure, hang up on that call, look up the Social Security Administration's actual phone number, call that number and see if they called you. But most of the time, it's not really them calling. So I found that interesting. These were the ones that people were impersonating the most, or scammers were impersonating the most. For those people who lost money, they said what helped, or I read this wrong, I'm so sorry. For those who did not lose money, they said feeling something wasn't right helped prevent them from falling for the scam and losing their money, that they knew the methods and behaviors of scammers and that helped prevent themselves from falling for the scam, or that they researched the scam or the scam type to see if they were being targeted for that. So again, trusting your gut and doing that little bit of research really does help you avoid losing anything to a scam. I'm going to skip that. If you are interested in how to avoid falling for a scam, here's a top 10 tips list. Number one is never send money to someone you've never met face to face. Obviously, there's a lot of online, specifically organizations or businesses that you want to help support, but do your research to make sure that they are legitimate before you send them money, just because you don't have that in-person connection with them. Number two, don't click on any links or open any attachments in any unsolicited email or text message, which we mentioned earlier. Number three, don't believe everything that you see, because scammers are great at mimicking official seals, fonts, and other details. So that goes for that PayPal or the Amazon scams that we talked about earlier. They do a great job of making things look legitimate, but if you just do a little bit deeper detailed look at what you receive, or if you do a side by side, this was an actual Amazon statement, this is what I received, you might see those differences when you put them next to each other and find out or realize that it was a scam that you received. Number four, don't buy anything online unless the transaction is secure. So look for that S in HTTPS. Did I say that right? HTTPS, yes. In that URL to add that little extra bit of security. But even with that, still look up the business if they have, to see if they are legitimate, especially on bbb.org, because some people can still falsify the HTTPS and steal your information. So look up that business, look up their privacy policy, and see what it is that they're going to do with your credit card information or your PayPal information, whatever method you're using. Number five, be extremely cautious when dealing with anyone that you've met online. You never know if someone who they actually say they are on the other side of the screen. So be extra cautious. Number 6, never share your personally identifiable information with someone who has contacted you unsolicited. That goes for that social security call that you received. If they're calling you and saying that they're from the administration, they're asking you to verify your social security number, that's just a scammer that's trying to get your number. That administration already has your social security number on account. They're not going to ask you to verify it. Number 7, don't be pressured to act immediately. One of my favorite tips to give is if a business is trying to get your business or a charity is trying to get you to donate to them, that business or charity 99.9% of the time is going to still be there tomorrow. So if you want to take that step back, make sure it is something that you want to give your money to, that they are someone that you can trust with your money, that they're going to be giving you that product, they're going to provide that service for you, they're going to use those funds to help the cause that they're there to raise funds for. They're going to be there tomorrow and they're still going to want to take your money if they are legitimate. If they're trying to pressure you to act immediately, that's a huge red flag. They should have patience with you and know that you want to make that right decision for you at that time. Number 8, use secure traceable transactions when you make payments for goods, services, taxes, and debts. That way, if something were to go wrong, you can look back and see that this person is who they claimed that they were, or if you used your credit card, then hopefully you can make that claim on your credit card and hopefully get some money back in the long run. But if you use those traceable transactions, you can at least look back and see what happened. Number 9, whenever possible, work with businesses that have proper identification, licensing, and insurance. If they don't provide that to you, ask them for it. Ask them if they have ID to prove that they're actually an employee of that company. Then call that company and ask if that employee number matches someone that they have working for them. If not, then you know that they're not someone you can trust. If yes, then continue on with the transaction. For licensing and insurance, a lot of companies need specific licensing to do work on your home or to do work in your town or your city. So see if they can provide that to you, or else if they don't, then maybe they're not legitimate and they aren't someone that you can trust with your home or whatever the services that you're looking for. Same with insurance. If something were to happen when they're helping you and something goes wrong, is that on you? Is that on your homeowner's insurance? Is that on your car insurance if it was an accident? What's going to happen? So if they can say, oh, we have insurance, our employees are covered in case there's any incident that pops up, then you can feel a little bit more comfortable working with them. Number 10, be cautious about what you share on social media. I actually was just talking about this for some high school and college students. Be careful with what you're posting. Those could be answers to your security questions that you're going to be using for your banking information, for example, when you have those security questions in case you forgot your password, or just to give yourself one extra step to make sure your account is secured. But if you're sharing those answers on social media, what's the point of having that security question? One of the best examples I can give is around this time last year, a lot of people started sharing their senior pictures. They were sharing their high school name, the year that they graduated, their school mascot, because they wanted to celebrate the graduates of 2020. However, a mascot is a common security question. The year that you graduated or the town that you lived in are popular security questions. So be cautious of what you're sharing because you could be providing those security questions answers in your posts. A few more scams, and we talked about many of these already. One to look out for that we haven't talked about are event scams. We most recently saw this in Buffalo with the Toronto Blue Jays. They announced that they were going to be playing in Buffalo once again this summer. They played here last summer. And people were purchasing tickets thinking that they were getting tickets, not realizing that tickets weren't on sale just yet. So scammers were already posting that they had tickets available for you to purchase, where really they didn't. They were collecting people's money, their credit card information, and there weren't any actual tickets to give to them. So we encourage you, if you are going to an event this summer, especially now that more things are opening up, know who is selling the tickets, when they're on sale. So in this case, you could only purchase the tickets through the Toronto Blue Jays website. You couldn't get them at the stadium that they were playing at. So for a concert, Can you purchase them through a service like Ticketmaster, or can you only purchase them through the concert venue? Find out who is or how you're going to be able to access the ticket. Is it only digital? Are you going to be able to print them? And are they transferable? Can you send them to someone else if you in the end can't attend that event? So keep those things in mind when you plan on going to an event this summer or in the months to come. Fake phone calls we talked about a lot already. Emergency calls, this one we didn't really touch on, but it's when someone calls you saying that they're a loved one and that they're in danger and they need your money. In this sort of situation, you might have that emergency impulse and your adrenaline's rushing and maybe you're getting nervous. So ask for a special detail that only that loved one can know. So for example, if you know that they just shaved their head, you can say, "Oh, I'm just curious. How does your hair look today?" Or that's obviously a really bad example, but if they say, "Oh, it's curly," then you know, "Oh, they just shaved their head. They can't have curly hair. They have a buzz cut." So some sort of special detail to verify that it really is who the person says that they are. In this case too, you can always hang up and call that loved one back on the number that you already have, or call, if they say it's a grandchild, call that grandchild's mom and say, "Hey, what's so-and-so up to?" And if it was someone saying that they're in jail and the mother says, "Oh, they're right here in the kitchen with me. Why?" Then you know that that wasn't an actual legitimate call. They're not in jail. You don't need to send any money. This also reminds me, be careful of what you share online in regards to other people. You don't want to be sharing their personal information that can trick a scammer or give the scammer too much information too. So they might know that your grandchild's name is Tommy. So they might say, "Hey, grandma, it's me, Tommy." And that's because they received that information online. So be very careful with what you're sharing. Phony text scams we already talked about, but again, if there's a link in there and you didn't request that text message, you didn't anticipate that text message to come in, do not click on any of those links, because it could be a virus or it could be malicious software that's going to be downloaded to your phone, which can give people access to your information that you don't want them to have access to. Some social media scams that we've been seeing, look for verified pages, especially if you're sharing contest information, if you're entering contests. A lot of people a lot of scammers are trying to trick you into falling for these scams by impersonating a celebrity or a popular business. One that comes to mind is Southwest. I've seen many of my friends and loved ones share what they think is a contest to win flights for like a year or something like that from Southwest. But if you look, that account was just created recently. There's no verified check mark saying that it's truly Southwest, and the posts are very, very recent. They don't have a large history, where in reality, Southwest Airlines has been around for a long time. They have that trust mark on their actual account. So that verified check mark means that they are the actual account. They've proved that they belong to the organization that they say they are. So look for those verified pages before you provide any of that information, before you enter any of those contests or fill out any surveys, just so you know if you can trust them or not. Again, be careful what you're sharing on social media. We talked about that. Like farming is when a business, if you look, they don't really have that much history on their account, or they're trying to get you to like their posts and their what they're sharing on their social media platform, and then they end up selling that page to another account, and they will sell then your social media access as well. So be careful what you're liking on social media and make sure it is a true business or a true person before you like that post, because the more likes they're generating, then the better it is for them to sell it in the long run. So be careful what you're liking. Price gouging was popular during the pandemic as well. That's when a seller all of a sudden spikes up their prices of goods or services to a level much higher than it normally is being sold at. So if a price is raised more than 15% and it's not passed by the wholesaler, that's actually illegal. So we encourage you to report that to us. We've already talked about phishing emails, so I'm going to skip that. One more note about fake charities and donations. We just want you to watch for common or similar sounding names. So the example I always give is if someone says that they want you to donate to Red Cross of America, where that might not be an actual organization, but it sounds like American Red Cross. So you think, oh, I'm going to donate to that. They're doing a lot in their community. But if you really took that extra second, you could be like, that sounded a little weird. And then you might realize, oh, I'm donating to a cause that's just trying to trick me into believing that there is someone else. So give to those experienced relief organizations only, just so you know that your money is actually going to the cause that you think it's going to. One way you can verify those charities and nonprofits is if you go to give.org. It's our nonprofit sector of BBB. Well, BBB itself is a nonprofit, but BBB.org will give you more information relating to businesses. Give.org gives you information on those charities. So you can search that charity, and then it lets you know if they meet our standards or not. There's 20 different standards that a charity needs to meet in order to become accredited, which means that they are a charity that you really can trust with your donations, that they're giving the money towards the cause that they say that it's going towards, and it's not just they're collecting a lot of the money to give to their CEO and donate a small amount to that cause. So we have reports such as that and how often their board meets, what their time frame, how long they've been around for. We have a lot of information about charities here. So if you're ever nervous about where your money's going, you can check out that charity here. If there's not a page for them, reach out to us and we can do as much research as we can about that charity and provide you with that information. A few more red flags to remember just to help protect yourself. If someone says that something's free, if it's low cost and to act now, or if there's a buy one, get one deal, those are key phrases to try and trick people to falling for something because of that enticing offer. But like I mentioned earlier, that low cost or that deal is usually a company that's not legitimate. So do that research to see if that is a true company. There are a lot of great deals that are out there, but do that research to make sure they are someone you could trust and they're not just trying to entice you because they have that lower cost. If they ask you for an unusual form of payment, that's a red flag, such as a money transfer or a wire transfer, or if they ask you to purchase gift cards and let you know the gift card numbers. Those are popular ones that we've seen. If they're telling you that you're only going to pay postage or an admin fee and the product or service itself is free, that's their way of getting your credit card information and then not sending you something or not providing that service. Because postage too, you're like, oh, that's only going to be a couple dollars. That's not that much at all. And I'm going to get this laptop for free. That's not going to happen. They're taking that credit card information from you. I mentioned earlier that pressure to act now, they're trying to get you to act immediately, but that legitimate business or charity will still be there tomorrow for you to take a step back and make sure it's the right decision for you. If they tell you that you must pay by credit card or bank account information, usually people are willing to take other forms of payment too, but if they tell you that's only one way to pay, that's usually a red flag. The key phrase, there's a surefire investment opportunity. It's not surefire. There's never anything that's surefire. If they say something's 100% donation to a victim, there's always other things that come up for even charities that they need to pay for, and that some of the funds that are donated pay for those, such as the employees that come in, anything that they need to purchase to help with the causes that they're working towards and donating their money to. So if anything says 100% donation to a victim, take that with caution. And then if someone approaches you, this happened to me recently. Someone came to my door. I thought it was a neighbor, so I answered my door. But if it ended up being a business that stopped by my door at like 8 o'clock at night. I was getting ready to have a quick snack and then head to bed. They came to my door. They were trying to get me to purchase something. My gut told me something was wrong. I ended up looking up that company that they claimed to be working for, and they have an F rating with BBB. So I'm glad that I had my BBB cap on and thought to look them up before I went further with them. But if they approach you, be very cautious about any information that you're providing. that happened to be someone who came to my door. They might have been someone else might have been trying to break into my front door, or they might have been seeing what times I'm home or which door I use most often. So they're trying to figure out other clues of things that maybe they can use to their advantage in the future. So if they approach you, take extra caution of what you're providing them with. What do we do with the information that we receive from consumers just like you? If we see that abundance of scams being reported or reports coming in about or complaints coming in about a company or a charity, we then share those advisories with the media, the FTC, Attorney General's office, the US Attorney's office, FBI, local police, whoever needs to be involved so that they can then continue doing the investigations and hopefully coming to a resolution about what is happening. And last but not least, how can you help? Because you are a huge key in helping these bad guys hopefully stop their scams from happening or stopping their bad business practices. So always go to bbb.org or give us a call to learn some more information about scams and how to research businesses and charities. If you do see scams or any fraud happening, report it to our scam tracker or file complaints. Download that risk report at bbb.org/risk report to learn a little bit more about you yourself are being targeted for to help prevent yourself from falling for any scams. And then share these tips and stories with your loved ones to help prevent themselves from falling for any scams and becoming a victim as well. So if you would like any further information, our website is available to you 24/7 at bbb.org. So again, you can look up businesses, charities, and do your research, read those articles I mentioned earlier. Again, go to bbb.org/risk report to see what you are most at risk for falling for, and report a scam at bbb.org/scam tracker. That's the number for our office on the screen, 800-828-5000. That will bring you to a menu, and then it can help you choose which individual department you need to speak to. So if you want to report a scam or report, a complaint about a business, it'll put you in touch with someone. If you want to talk about an advertisement that you think is a false advertisement, there's an option for that. If you'd like to talk to me, where I'm part of the marketing department, so you can ask for marketing, or there's my email address on the screen. I'd be happy to start an email conversation with you as well. So with that, are there any questions from, I know some came through earlier, but are there any other questions now?
Not really. You've done a great job.
Thank you. I hope you were able to take out some valuable information and hopefully prevent yourself from falling for a scam.
Absolutely, absolutely. I have to share it with my granddaughter.
That would be a great idea.
Yeah, I thank you for that. I really appreciate what you shared because these things are happening and you get so frustrated and you don't know what to do. And your social media, I've gotten caught with people and, like this is a common thing I've seen. You have young men who are in lab coats portraying as doctors and they are all widows with one child living somewhere else and they're all overseas. And they're for different things or different favors, and they'll say that they're from New York, and when you go Google their name, they're not legit people. And this I've seen, they're trying to friend you from Facebook, and so I was kind of looking at my Facebook and I thought, maybe it's time to just delete some stuff, from there, because obviously finding something that's valuable to them, so I'm a business owner and I have a lot of my business stuff on there, but maybe that's what they're targeting.
Yeah, that's a great idea too. What you just suggested is not only researching the people who are trying to request you, but taking that extra look and saying, ooh, what have I shared in the past? Now, mind you, some people might, screenshots are a thing. A scammer could have taken a screenshot of that information, but if you at least have that thought like, oh, I should go back and maybe delete some of the stuff, which I know I personally am a little behind on doing. What's the word I'm looking for? I'm also at fault of that. I should probably go back and check on like what I shared in high school what did I share about myself in high school that now I'm like, oh, that's probably not something that people should know, because it could be a security answer. So doing that little step and being like, oh, I'm going to delete this just to protect myself for the future. So that's a great suggestion.
Like how far back on Facebook, for example, I've never done this before with my Facebook. I'm thinking like maybe I should go back and like delete whatever I can. And I'm just trying to think like how far can you go back?
You should be able to go back as far as when you started your account. Sometimes the further you go back, the longer it takes to load. I've noticed that. One thing that I like looking at every day are my memories. So I know
Oh.
on my Facebook, at least, it shares your memories that you posted on that day in years past. So if that
Right.
comes up, you could say, oh, that could be a potential item to put me at risk, and then you can go in and delete it that way. So that's something I've at least been looking at for myself as a starting point, a stepping point. Because there, especially if you've had your Facebook or whatever account it is for a long time, it's going to take more time to go through it and see, oh, what should I keep? What should I remove? You don't have to remove a ton of stuff. Obviously, social media is something that's supposed to be fun, something to keep you connected with other people. You should be able to feel comfortable sharing stuff about yourself, but just pay attention to what it is that you're posting. So going back and taking a look can be beneficial.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions? And if you are watching the recording, like I said, here's our contact information. Feel free to reach out. If you do email me or leave a message for me, I only work Monday through Friday, so my weekends are off. So if I don't get back to you right away, I'm usually done in the office around 4. So please just give me a little time to respond to you. But I do respond as quickly as I can. But if that's that, I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And I thank you for joining me today. It was a pleasure being able to speak with you, and I'm looking forward to hopefully connecting with you again in the future.